the subject of the chakras is a vast and beautiful subject. In fact, the study of the chakras is probably the largest study and practice in any field of yoga. But it is not just not to be a study. The knowledge of the chakras are to lead you to ultimate moksha. And so it is dependent that you have built up a good basis for your yoga sadhana and then taken to what is called Adhyatmika Yoga. It is sad that people want to miss the foundation of a spiritual life but gain the high spiritual practices. This is not very practical. As a great yoga teacher 2,000 years ago said, do not build your house upon shifting sands. Build your house upon the solid and firm foundation of real yoga. This is the Christ Master Yogi. Now, a person who doesn't first build up the Bahiranga and the Antaranga aspects of the yoga is living in a kind of a fantasy. This is like building a house with a bamboo framework and then trying to coat it later on with cement and hoping that the house will not fall down. A good building requires a foundation far in excess of the building on top of it. In exactly the same way, your spiritual life requires a solid foundation, and the early practices of yoga are for that foundation. This is why I do not denigrate in any way the early practices of yoga. You'll never hear me talk against the proper use of asanas, kriyas, and mudras, because this prepares a beautiful body, a temple for the divine spirit. And in fact, I'm critical of people who do not see that the body is as spiritual as anything else. I don't know about you, but I am living in a body which is as much spiritual as any spiritual part of nature can be. Surprisingly enough, there are people who say, there is the physical life and it's not spiritual. Then there's the mental life and it is not spiritual. Then there's the supramental life and it's becoming spiritual. And then there's the spiritual life which is spiritual. Well, frankly, my own feeling is this. All is spirit. All is God. There's nothing outside of God. I'm using this word God now synonymous with the universe, with the Purusha, whatever you want to call it. But whatever. There is nothing outside of this divine radiation, this divine energy. So how is it that we decide the body isn't important? Who decides that the body isn't spirit? Who says the body isn't spirit? Some fools. Your body is as much spirit as the spirit itself. What is this that we talk about? Well, it is true, by the way, that many people have denigrated their body, harmed their body by use and misuse. And ultimately, they have to find that they must spiritualize this body again. Yoga is the practice or the science of divination of those things which have not been held to be purely spiritual, and to spiritualize your body. This is the temple of the divine self. Nowhere in anything I have ever read is this a prison of the supreme nature. Although many people are imprisoned in sickness and disease because of their wrong thinking. So here we see in this high aspect of yoga, considering the ultimate, the abhyasa of yoga, the adhyatmika yoga, when we talk about chakras, that there is a relationship between the chakras and the physical body. And in fact, when we're talking about divinizing the human body, we are talking about getting the physical body into such supreme health that the energy flux from the Anandamaya Kosha, that cosmic body of which we each have an independent part, but this cosmic body that is our own is the counterpart of the greater cosmos, that this then is the spiritualization of the physical body. When we talk about chakras, we have a choice of deciding upon a number of fields of yoga and tantra where the knowledge of the chakras are taught. And to my own knowledge, there are about 10 different fields in which yoga, tantra play some part. And in yoga, at least in two aspects of the yoga, the chakras become important. In the higher aspects of Tantra, there are 10 schools of Tantra, 10 Vamamarga, 10 Dakshinamarga. The idea of the chakras is prevalent in all 10 schools. They differ tremendously, I must tell you. That in the lower schools of Tantra, the chakras play a particular part and are visualized in a bit of a different way, school by school. When you get into the higher aspects of the Tantra, when you get into the Dakshinamarga Tantra, there you discover a totally different concept, albeit a good concept, by the way. I have not run across a bad concept related to the chakras in either yoga or in Tantra. In fringe yoga, in fringe Tantra, we do run into some pretty weird stuff. In Tibetan mysticism, the Tibetan aspects of these, we do run into devils and witches and all sorts of negative things which are not a part and parcel of even the lowest aspect of the Tantra. We have at hand on each side of me a depiction in two of those schools of the psychic centers, the vortices of energy, the chakras, the padmas, so many terms that are used. On my left is a beautiful depiction of 12 chakras. 6 of these chakras are in the lower body and are seen in relationship to the human spine, up to the 6th, which centers the front part of the human brain. Then note the gigantic nimbus around the head, made up of 6 more chakras. These 6 chakras in the physical body are referred to as Pinda chakras, or Pinda Padmas, or Pinda Kanwal. While the upper chakras, surrounding the head like a giant nimbus, are referred to the Kanana chakras, or Anda chakras, the most common term, those chakras in the Anda, or the egg, the cosmic egg. And the depiction that you see here is suggestive that our lower body is in the lowest part of the 5 elements, the earth. There is a higher element of water, a still higher but medial range in which we find the vayu, the fire, the vayu, the air, and finally the akash. So this is trying to relate 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, also to the chakras. It's very difficult to do, by the way. This blending together of chakras, bindus, nadis, grantis, panchamahabhutas. It's very, very difficult to relate these unless you accept a theory of 5 bodies, panchakosha, that man is made up of 5 different independent bodies, all interplaying each other. And that certain of these, like the grantis, are in the physical body. The nerve plexi, some of the nadis, are in the physical body. But some of the nadis are in pranamaya kosha. Some of the nadis are in manamaya kosha. Then we get into the bindus, which are also a part of the manamaya kosha, but even the higher state of the bindus, in vijnanamaya kosha, the higher mind body. And then the energy that flows out of the anandamaya kosha, your cosmic body. These great ethereal, vibratory vortices that come down into the lower body, linking together your higher cosmos and your lower body. Now, pick this up. I've mentioned that you have Anandamaya Kosha. You have a cosmic body, which is directly related to the greater cosmos. And when we talk of man as being a microcosm in a macrocosm, the microcosm that you first begin with is Anandamaya Kosha with 4 other bodies, centering, but at a lower speed of vibration, and the cosmos outside, which is the macrocosm. You can, of course, follow this down through all of the bodies, that even when you come into the physical body, you go smaller in the physical body, you go into organs, then you go into cells, and you even go farther down through the molecular structure of the cell into the atom itself. But yoga does not go that far, because it says there is a point where things can be reduced so far that you cannot understand them. And going down and talking about atoms is almost useless in yoga, because you cannot comprehend an atom. Frankly, you cannot comprehend an atom. And if somebody says a cell is made up of millions of atoms, what does this mean to you? Very little. But you can experience cellular bodies. You can experience the greater vortices of energy that make up your higher nature. And this is the microcosm that we are referring to in microcosm, macrocosm. On my right hand is another depiction of the chakras in relationship to the various structures or systems of man's body. This is a little closer and more akin to what I will be teaching you stage by stage of the 12 chakras. And here, in this case, 6 chakras are shown in Pinda, that is the physical body, while the 6 chakras in Anda are simply shown as a 1,000-petaled lotus. And perhaps that's a good place to start, that there are a number of depictions of the chakras where the chakras are shown simply as vortices of light. Great swirls. A chakra means a wheel, a turning wheel. Great swirls of colorful energy representing the chakras. Another depiction, the 6 lower chakras are shown as padmas or lotuses. These depictions as padmas are in consideration of the fact that that center is open. If the center isn't open, it is shown as an undeveloped lotus bud of a lotus, kanwal. An undeveloped, not activated lotus, a not activated chakra. And when we see the depiction of a kanwal, we're looking at a human body where the energy is not coming through. And generally speaking, the term kanwal and padma are used for the first 6 centers alone. The upper 6 are not usually referred to as padmas, but rather by the term chakra. The 7th center, Sahasrara Mandala, Sahasrara Padma, is depicted having exactly 1,000 petals, while the lower centers have smaller groups of petals. For instance, Mooladhara Chakra, the lowest speed of vibration of all of the chakras, which in the physical body is associated with the sacral plexus, is shown as having 4 petals. Swadhisthana Chakra, above this, in the subgastric plexus, in the pelvic plexus, another term for the same plexus, is shown as having 6 petals. The solar plexus, the solar medullaris, is shown as having 10 petals. The chakra at the heart is shown as having 12 petals. At the throat, 16 petals. In the front portion of the brain, representing the 2 parts, left and right parts of the brain, are 2 petals. And if you total these all together up to this particular level, you have the number 50, 50. And if you multiply that 20 times, you come to 1,000. And it is said that the 7th chakra has 1,000 petals, Sahasrara, literally meaning Sahasra, 1,000 Ra petals, Sahasra Ra, 1,000 petals. When we mix up the schools, by the way, of padmas, kanwals, chakras, we can easily become confused. And so generally speaking, in a particular school of Tantra or Yoga, you choose to use one set of terms alone. Otherwise, you're in trouble. When you're calling the same thing by another name, you distort your consciousness. And so you should choose on one, particularly if you're using this as a kind of inner language, you should choose one and simply use it as such. The same argument goes for other terms. I can give you maybe 27 terms for white flour. Bleached white wheat flour. But if I ask you to make me something out of maida, will you know that that's white bleach flour? Only if you're North Indian and Hindi speaking. But if we all know that white flour is used for making white bread, why not use that term? Why get confused? And there is a story of 5 brothers who were all left a single piece of land by their father when he died. And each of the boys, he told them to grow wheat. But he told them in 5 different terms. And so the boys quarreled over what should be planted on the ground. They had such a terrible quarrel that they almost killed each other, until somebody told them, the words you're using all mean wheat. It is the same thing. Why don't you grow wheat and be there? Oh, well, Father said do this, do that, and the other thing. But it was all the same. So generally speaking, it is best to adopt a single terminology. And in this particular case, in the talks I'm going to give you, at least 13 talks, tonight and 1 evening each on each of the 12 chakras, I'm going to use the word chakra. I'm not going to, again, suggest the term Padma, except to explain the lotus-like arrangement of petals in the chakras itself. To me, a chakra represents a divine energy flow, a very, very high speed of energy. This speed of energy, by the way, may be even beyond the speed of light, because it is a cosmic concept that we're trying to develop. One questions, is there something called cosmic light? Physical light, we know the speed of vibration of physical light. Is there something called cosmic light? Well, Albert Einstein said, shortly before his death, that he had discovered the speed of vibration of cosmic light. He said, I gave to the world a number of formulas using the concept of light with a particular speed of vibration. He said, now I believe that I know something about cosmic light. Well, we are talking about something in the chakras which would be equivalent to talking about cosmic light. These chakras, remember, are in the Anandamaya Kosha, the 5th and highest speed of vibration of your 5 bodies. Each of your bodies, in fact, could be best termed an energy structure. And although at the physical body level we have different structures like the bones, the skeletal structure, the musculature, the nerves, the blood flow, major organs, endocrine glands, these all make up the physical structure. Every structure in your body still oscillates or vibrates at a particular speed of vibration. Your bones, your muscles, all fall into a category of vibratory rates. And your bones are what they are because of their vibratory rate. If this vibratory rate changes, your bones disintegrate. And we alter and change the frequency of foodstuff that we take into the body to make bones, muscles, to make blood, to make glandular substances within the body. Now, in exactly the same way that we can understand the physical body by talking about electrodynamic fields or magnetic fluxes in the body. And we could say that a particular gland in the body is what it is because of its magnetic flux or its electrodynamic field. So also when we go into the Pranamaya Kosha, we're simply talking of higher speeds of energy, still making patterns or fields. In Manomaya Kosha, which contains the subconscious mind as well as the conscious mind, again, we can discuss the mind and its subconsciousness as energy fields. The supraconscious mind, we continue with the concept of energy fields. Then we get into this highest body, the Anandamaya Kosha. And here, of course, we have the pattern developing in a very, very beautiful sense that we can understand the field structures of the rest of the body. Because only in the chakras do we really talk about energy, real energy. The rest is reflections of that same energy, slower speeds of vibrations of that energy. And in some cases, we're talking about energy that develops only as the result of the chakras. These energies in the lower body would not exist themselves if it were not from the energy from above. As above, so below. On earth, in the body, as it is in heaven. These are Hermetic or tantric ideas about how the body gets its energy, that we are an energy structure, and how life begins with prana entering the body with the breath of life, and how life ends when that prana falls away from the body. When we talk about the chakras, we actually talk about them in reverse. When you think of the cosmos coming down into the physical body, we would have to come down through the first 6 chakras from 12 through 11 through 10 to 9 to 8 to 7. And then the energy slows down even more. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mooladhara Chakra. Mooladhara Chakra is the farthest away from the universe in speed of vibration that you can go. Yet in our studies, we usually turn it around and call Mooladhara Chakra the first chakra. Well, this is in a system that science has developed called the reductive system. It doesn't bring us much practical truth, but it is a way by which we can study. So for this purpose, we're going to adopt a reductive system. And when I mentioned the first 6 chakras in the physical body, I'm referring to 5 spinal chakras from the base of your spine, to 1 at the back of your throat just before the body is attached to the head, and a 6th chakra in the mid part of the brain towards the frontal part of the brain. Then when we talk about the higher chakras, we're talking about those which are no longer purely centered within the body. Only the first 6 chakras take in totally the physical body. The other 6 chakras are actually outside and beyond the physical body. They remain only in the Anandamaya Kosha. And unless there is a relationship between our Annamaya Kosha, the physical body, and Anandamaya Kosha, then these chakras are of no value to us at all. And in actual fact, the vast majority of the human race has not opened up to these energies, and this is why we're still very much at the animal level. We are potentially human, but very few people have come to the human level. We are potentially divine, but very few have come from the human level ready to be divinized. We have the knowledge of this subject, but we haven't practically applied it in our spiritual lives. In the Anandamaya Kosha, these energy fluxes are stabilized from the very moment we take on the first breath of life until we actually clinically die. And there is some evidence that some substance associated with these chakras remain for a short period of time, perhaps a few minutes up to 36 hours after a person physically dies. That is, as long as the body isn't destroyed by fire, as in this part of the world, or buried, that the energy is still there. Now, what is the purpose of this energy? I haven't the slightest notion, except to say that it would appear that the possibility of coming back to life again after a human dies is there under certain circumstances. And in Adhyatmika Yoga, it is said that one of the 108 siddhis is to take back your body after you have actually died. That within 20 minutes to 8 hours after the body has been lost in death, that the mind itself under certain circumstances, these are yogic circumstances, can take back its own body, revive that body, and continue on.